project I'm working on called 100% Fractals on Love, about my experiences trying to find a proper definition of love. The title and first fractal arose from a quote by Francois Truffaut in which he says, "Arbitrarily, I can say that my films are composed of the following: 20% autobiographical material, 20% stories I read in the papers, 20% things that happen to people around me, and 20% pure invention." When I was 17, I imagined when I was older, wiser, and more experienced, I would stop falling in love with ideals. By then, the kind of innocence that comes from virginity would be gone. I would have broken someone's heart and had my own heart broken. To my mind, these were the things that made both deep writers and interesting people. It was only the sexually inexperienced who longed for unattainable people, particularly unattainable fictitious people, and maybe that's true. I am still virginal and full of longing after I've broken someone's heart and had my own heart broken. I still idealize with the kind of innocence I've come to accept as part of who I am, and maybe that's why I've never had sex. Because losing one's virginity is losing the self for another in a perfect butterfly effect, and once those little wings fall, I will be transformed like St. John of the Cross after he cleaved to the Lord in dark night of the soul. He says, "I lost myself to him and laid my face upon my lover's breast, and care and grief grew dim, as in the morning's mist became the light. There they dimmed amongst the lilies fair." I imagined that was what sex was like: death, chaos, luminescence, except with lilacs, and not with God. In college, one of the first things my professor said was, "We all fall in love with ideas when we're young. It's the ideas we fall in love with in our 20s that stay with us for the rest of our lives." Maybe she's right. I'm not on the other side of my 20s yet, but I've loved more ideas than people in my life. I think if I could get over my agnosticism and idolatry, I too could experience ecstasy in God. But I'm not over agnosticism or idolatry, and at 29 I doubt I'll ever be. Dror Mishani asked the woman called The Last Great Love of Francois Truffaut to talk about the 100% quote in Harrods. He wondered what happened to the last 20%. Fanny Ardant said only, "A person's life is very moving. To succeed in a relationship is like creating a masterpiece." Have I ever succeeded in a relationship? I think not. When I got to university, I believed in eternal love, but I too, when I started to live, did mostly nonsense. Maybe that is how it is when you place something so high, so hard to touch, so hard to reach. After I read the interview in Harrods, I laughed the laugh of the girl I was, because she seemed out of focus. But now that I'm older, wiser, and more experienced, her words, like her face, come to me clearly in the light. When I remember as far back as I can, I often lie, even to myself, because it's not as impressive as dancing around the coffee table to Pennsylvania 6-5000 with my father, or as deep a red as the maple leaves turn on the tree in our front yard every year around my birthday. And I think I should be deeper and more interesting. I couldn't have been more than 2 when I realized it felt really good to rub up against the corner of a coffee table or cup my hands and brush against the hardwood floors in masturbation. I gathered all the children at Marva's around me and showed them how they could feel really good too, until Marva came in and separated me, and I got to watch television alone for the rest of the afternoon. The first woman I loved, who broke my heart, told me it's natural for children to masturbate, but she thought it was great I decided to teach it to the other children, because it was a sign that I was meant to be a leader. Or maybe it was a metaphor, but for what, I don't know. The woman I loved was always a more interesting poet. The woman I loved was a more interesting person in general, and as deep goes, she goes farther. That's her essence. I was 19 the first time I was sexually attracted to a woman, Miranda Richardson, as Consuelo de Saint-Exupéry in Saint X, when her black hair is turned blue in the moonlight that fills the courtyard and she slowly turns to reveal a red rose behind her ear. I screamed it was so beautiful. She was beautiful, and when my mother came running, I told her I was bisexual because I had fallen in love with the image before me. A second-wave feminist told me and my best friend Anne we were lesbians, not bisexual. She then said it's not really about having the label gay or straight, it's about love and being open to the idea that love might not come in the form you've been expecting, and that has stayed with me through the years. Love has never come to me in the form I was expecting, it's always a surprise. Anne and I used to call each other platonic soulmates because we met in a sex, gender, and society and classical antiquities class and loved art, Audrey and Rich, and signs of intelligent life. I sent her a note with part of the Comrades poem because it reminded me of her when Rich says, "Little as I knew you, I know you. Little as you knew me, you know me. That's the light we stand under when we meet. I've looked into flecked jaws, walked injured beaches, foot slick in oil, watching licked birds stumble in flight, while you, drawn through the pupil of your eye, across your own oceans, in visionary pain and in relief, headlong and by choice, took on the work of charting your city's wounds, ancient and fertile. My testimony, yours. Trying to keep faith, not with each other exactly, yet it's the one known and unknown who stands for, imagines the other with whom faith could be kept. Anne said, that poem has always reminded me of you. I used to imagine us going off to an island somewhere as modern-day Sapphos, living out the rest of our days, drinking wine, reminiscing about second-wave feminists, and quoting Audrey and Rich to each other. She came to visit me when I lived in Budapest and drew a mural on the wall of a coffee cup with a tree rising from the steam, and to the left side, a scroll with a section from Rich's 21 love poems. I can't remember a time when my love was as innocent, though it has been deeper. It may not be as impressive as romantic or sexual love, but it came to me, and I know it as love.